I'm sure there's a few things you didn't have on your bingo card for 2025. You know, like T-Tall making a comeback in August, Gura graduating, and Hugo Calderano winning the ITTF World Cup, arguably the biggest stage in table tennis. Because let's be real, dude's getting close to 30, so maybe a bit past his peak, and while he's been able to take matches off the very best, he hasn't been able to do so consistently enough to win a Tier 1 tournament. But that all changed in the April of 2025, so strap in folks, because we're gonna take a look at how he did it. And yes, I'm months late again, but between falling behind on tournaments after a trip to Japan and a crippling depression of HoloLive graduations, I think I deserve some slack, okay? Let's start with a question. What does Hugo like to do? He's a taller player, he plays aggressively, and he likes to open on the backhand. Taller players with longer limbs tend to get a bit more whip through the backhand, but struggle a bit with the forehand, especially close to the body. Now, many backhand dominant players will regularly cover most of the table with the backhand on receives and third balls, but Hugo will frequently cover even the right corner with his backhand. Why? Because when the ball is half long, it can be hard to get a strong forehand there, but since the backhand stroke is faster and can be performed more over the table, you can get a stronger shot. So why don't people go for it more often? Because it leaves the entire left side of the table open. But Hugo is not only fast, he also has enough reach to mitigate this such that he's frequently able to take the gamble and stay alive in the rally even if his opponent gets a return. Combined with the natural power in his backhand and the angle of his shot, his opponent's probably not hitting that ball down the line and he can predict where he needs to cover reasonably accurately. So that was quite the expository dump. Hopefully you stuck with me through it because I think this was one of the biggest factors leading to his victories. If not, understandable. Have a nice day. Here's a happy saver for your troubles. Anyways, we'll start in round 16. Hugo Calderano versus Hiroto Shinozuka. I'm only going to cover this one briefly, and it's for this one bit in game 2. See, basically the entire game, Hugo's been cheating over to his forehand side to take Shinozuka's serves with his backhand, which more or less works out. But since he's doing it egregiously and often, I wondered if Shinozuka would try to punish him with some fast down the line serves. Well, he tried a total of 3 times this game, and it only worked twice. That's when I knew Hugo had it in the bag, because he looked so unfairly comfortable bouncing back and smacking the ball back over the table. I'm pretty sure Shinozuka only tried this a handful of times the rest of the match. Sure, he may have lost game 2 and the other ones were relatively close, but Hugo didn't really look that pressed, moving on to the quarterfinals 4-1. In the quarterfinals, we have Hugo Calderano versus Tomokazu Harimoto. Game 1, and Hugo looks like he's playing a pretty high commitment strat. Coming out the gate on his first serve, he's already covering a large amount of table with his backhand, and on the second, he's already backing up to play some backhand rallies. That's not to say he doesn't play any forehands, because on some serve receives, he cheats to his left. He uses his leverage to play some full table coverage. This high risk, high reward gameplay maybe confuses him a bit, because he misses a few shots reacting late, or just by being too far back and out of position. Harimoto, for his part, seems to play a more overall solid strategy, knowing that he's going to give up a few points to Hugo's big backhand, but then trying to stay in each rally and get the ball back on the table. Harimoto takes the first game. Things aren't looking great for Hugo at the start of game 2. I mean, 3 points in a row where he misses on balls that he could hit in his sleep, but he makes up for it with some fancy footwork and this ridiculous backhand from center table. It seriously looks like whenever he gets the shot from the middle that he's just able to put it wherever he wants to, and most of the time it's where Harimoto isn't. Hugo tightens up the play for the next few points and locks in his touch game, scoring some big forehand openings from the forehand side of the table, which maybe feels like an obvious statement, but remember, he's basically only opened with the backhand from that side up to this point. Because of this, he's able to tone down the risky strategy from game 1 and play something more solid that still wins points. I mean, why do the hard thing when you keep it simple and still win? Notice how this also does wonders for messing up Harimoto's strategy too. Shots he used to play to forehand and then retreat to block, he's now trying to force it to backhand or trying to keep really short to prevent those forehand openings. Harimoto manages to mount a bit of a comeback this game, but you're gonna mess up sooner or later, and when you can't guess or react to your opponent's openings from both wings, well, you're kinda cooked. Also just love the shot here. Like, 1, how the heck does he play this backhand push and get back in time? Then 2, reacting to the forehand, which is kinda half long by the way, and even with his right leg forward, loads it up and springs forward through the ball, almost like he's gliding through the table. They say all the power is from the legs, and even without the usual rotation through the torso, Hugo generates enough power to break through Harimoto's block. Too good. Hugo's touch only keeps getting better with some crazy defense, some wild pickups off the back edge of the table, and some crazy good ball placement, and he takes game 3. Harimoto tries to fight back game 4 by attacking Hugo's backhand corner and reading his attack. When your opponent's point construction looks like this, yeah, that's rough. Harimoto loses game 4 and almost takes game 5 and has a 10-7 lead at the end. But Hugo clutches up, plays some comfortable backhands, and wins 5 points straight to take the match 4-1. And now, it's time to move this video along to the match you all were waiting for, Hugo Calderano versus Wong Chuqin. Just like how this isn't Hugo's first feature on this channel, we've talked about Wong Chuqin before, twice to be exact, and both times he was a stepping stone for our hero to attain greatness. Not to downplay how good he is or just paint him in a bad light, but unfortunately he gets to reprise that role again. At this tournament again. In the same round again. That's rough. But here we go with what might be the best match of the whole tournament. Wong Chuqin walks in with the yellow quarter zip. Hugo rocks up with a nice blue and green jersey and a mountain of spares. We get some pre-game floor problems. Good eye by Wong to shut down the slip and slide early. Hopefully no pesky fans taking pictures with Flash this time, and we're off to the races. Game 1, Hugo to serve. The first 4 points looked a bit like the nerves getting shaken out, because both players are missing shots that look normally doable. Now, playing against a left-handed player probably means that Hugo isn't going to send the backhands from the forehand corner as often. Why? Well, 1. Off the serve, the angle isn't as nice because the ball is traveling outwards towards your elbow as opposed to straight into your racket. And 2, it's because a lot of the high percentage angles you get from there are cross table, meaning that your opponent probably knows where it's going, so you're probably trying to overpower the block with a fast shot. It worked against Harimoto because it's a wide forehand block for him, and Hugo can still reasonably threaten placement shots down the line. But since Wong is a lefty, those shots go straight into his backhand. It's a whole lot easier to block on the backhand when you can press down the ball with your body, and a heck of a lot easier to send it down the line than with your forehand. But of course, if your opponent doesn't give you a reason to respect those weaknesses, you can still go for those winners. Sorry, Shinozuka. So it should be no surprise that Hugo is positioned a bit more in the middle of these shots. And I should note, all this applies for Wong as well. He just has to deal with this in 90% of his matchups as opposed to Hugo's like 5. But that's just the wide angles. Hugo still opts to cover the center line with his backhand a lot, which gets him some quick points. Wong's strat looks like he's willing to take shots to the backhand because he's confident he can block it out. He's looking for opportunities to step around into the forehand, and for most of this game, it looks like it goes pretty well. Hugo seems like he's on the back foot, can't get a read on the service, and is a bit out of position, but somehow scrapes through with some good touch on some off-balance shots, squeezes out game 1. Game 2, Wong strikes back with a vengeance, and this time he's all about attacking Hugo's wide forehand. After trying 2 backhands from that spot and losing 2 points, Hugo goes back to taking those with the forehand. But Wong adapts. Those backhands that Hugo hits while sliding to cover his elbow, yeah, they're a bit weaker because he doesn't have time to set it up. So Wong attacks those. Want to attack his wide forehand too? Well, Wong's ready and in position. Hugo, for his part, looks a bit worried about Wong's attack. See all those pushes he's sending into the net? He's trying to keep it short so Wong can't open. And even when he does put them over, Wong's ready for the floatier change of pace shots and capitalizes. Hugo tries serving long and fast to push things into rally, but he's still getting pushed back too far from the table, and Wong takes game 2. Game 3 opens with a similar tactic. The weaker backhand leads to an aggressive attack from Wong. The slight cheat towards the center leads to more vulnerable backhand corner, and the center positioning means that taking center shots with a forehand takes more time. The ball is lower to the ground, so Hugo has to lift more, leading to an easy clap from Wong. Even Hugo's first point could realistically be chalked up to an unforced error from Wong because he closes over the ball a bit too hard. This whole game, Wong has scouted out Hugo's option selects and puts the ball where he's not. When he cheats right to cover more of the table with his backhand, Wong puts it to his left. When he cheats left to cover more of the table with his forehand, Wong puts it to the right corner. And since Hugo's a half step behind on covering these shots, they come back over the net a bit slower, a bit higher, and a bit more predictably, which at this level is like throwing up alley-oops to Shaq in the paint. Understandably, Wong takes a comfortable game 3. The game score is 1-2 going into game 4, and it's not do or die yet, but the last 2 games, Wong seems to have figured something out. It is not looking too hot for our hero Hugo. What would you do in this situation? Try to play more defensively to slow down the pace? Less risky, but Wong's on a tear, so you're likely gonna get overwhelmed. Sell on more aggression and take bigger risks? Wong's already got a read on you, so there's a chance he'll be ready for it, and if he kills your momentum here, the match might as well be over. Hugo's solution? His positioning and reads look pretty similar, so overall positioning risk doesn't rise, but he's more aggressive on his placements and shots. When he slides to cover his elbow with the backhand, no more slicing blocks, he's hitting through them. When Wong puts it somewhere uncomfortable, he responds by placing the ball in tough to reach positions. No point exemplifies this more than here. Guess is wrong on the receive, so he's off balance on the backhand push, but he still goes for an aggressive angle out to Wong's forehand. Wong has time to attack, but not a good angle to put it down the line, so Hugo's Hugo's in the backhand pocket, ready with the block. Wong puts it with speed, closer to the center line than Hugo's expecting. And this man has the audacity to twist his wrist and punch block the ball down the line. In fact, he does this so well that Wong can't really play anything other than a stretch block to put the ball back on the table, which puts it to Hugo's forehand, turning him into the attacker in this point. A few hits later, Hugo's rewarded with an overzealous shot from Wong and wins the point in Wong's timeout. The strat change doesn't win the game, but the score is closer and not padded by garbage time points like in Game 3, I should add. But in Game 5, it is now do or die. Hugo gears up for a comeback by putting on a new shirt, locks in, and doubles down on Game 4's game plan. Wrong guess? No problem. I'ma still swing through it. And the placement? Immaculate. Hugo attacks those angles with ferocity, so much so that it looks like Wong has to be a bit preemptive on what he's choosing to cover, leading to some misses when he guesses wrong. He seriously looks way more stretched laterally, which curtails some of his power play from previous games. Honestly, look at this point he should have won. He gets the good placement on the receive, calling out Hugo's forehand coverage. Hugo plays a desperation slap made possible by his long reach, but Wong's still in control of the point. The whole thing turns into a scramble, but I can't help but think that this block here looks really uncharacteristic. Look, I'm not a pro player, so I don't know what's going on in his head, but Hugo's hitting from far away and literally shooting from the hip. The ball is high, and it's hard to imagine it'd go anywhere down the line with enough pace to outright win the point. Be that as it may, Wong seems really committed to making his way back towards the center when it looks like he could have maintained his positioning for a forehand or at least played a stronger backhand. Again, I want to stress that this is all a scramble, and most of the time the person who gets the ball on the table more often than the other wins the point. So I don't want to overstate my case too much because a drop shot here is legit, and hindsight is 20/20. But I don't know, I was really surprised, and maybe, just maybe, he didn't press the advantage because he knew Hugo would have continued the aggressive play or even put the ball somewhere he wasn't ready to cover. That gives Hugo a chance to play a beautifully placed backhand chop. He pushes it back, Hugo reacts to the open paddle, moves forward, and hits a running shot to take the point. Stuff like this swings momentum, and Hugo expands his lead to 9-3. Wong fights back and plays some tight shots to bring it to 10-7, but Hugo has enough of a point buffer to let the win come to him and stays alive in the semifinals. Another shirt change and we start Game 6. Wong stabilizes the D and dials up the attack when he's got the chance, but a disgusting down the line forehand from Hugo brings him to a screeching halt. Hugo's forehand is now looking dominant, and it seems like it's just the right blend of fast to put Wong on the back foot and flat to confuse him on the spin. Of course, we can't downplay the lucky breaks off the net and edge balls that Hugo got in this game, but in the legendary words of gamers around the world, we take those. Hugo wins a dominant Game 6. One last shirt change for the fans, one last intense coaching session, and it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the climactic Game 7. It's not about who wants it more, but rather who can keep it together long enough in the 3-3 pressure cooker to play their game and trust their shots to come out on top. Hugo serves first. Wong takes it off the edge with the backhand to the wide forehand. Hugo doesn't get enough lift on the ball, 0-1. Similar approach on the next serve, except this time Hugo covers the forehand with a shorter stroke from the elbow. Wong chooses to punch, but doesn't do so hard enough. Hugo catches him out of position down the line, 1-1. Wong steps back on his serve, maybe expecting an attack, and is late to the forehand push, but then schmixerizes Hugo with a misdirection on a backhand. Bro's literally walking in the wrong direction. The game remains tied at 2-2. Hugo's late to the push, giving Wong a free ball, and a bit of overzealousness on the forehand means the ball catches up, maybe off an edge, maybe on too flat of a contact point, and Wong pulls ahead by 2. A gutsy inside-out forehand and an equally gutsy off-balance backhand down the line later ties up the score, and for the first time in 4 points, someone wins on their serve, this time courtesy again of that reach on the backhand across the body. Hugo heads into the side switch with the lead at 5-4. But Wong's not ready to give up just yet, and he goes on a 3-point run, relentlessly attacking Hugo's backhand with angles, speed, and change of pace. I mean, you can't tell me this isn't one of the most beautiful point constructions you've seen. He's got so much power on the forehands that Hugo only has one option to keep it in play, and Wong moves him around the table until he finds a winning shot. Hugo's got to stop the bleeding, and he does on his next 2 serves, dishing out a blistering forehand down the line with the hooked wrist and a bit of luck off the net, followed by some of the sickest reactionary play I've seen in a hot set. Big forehand close to the table, but Wong reads it and gets a great block. He doesn't have a good angle down the line, but he gets it close. Hugo on the move, hits the fadeaway inside out, like who has the composure to do that, takes the lead back at 8-7. There's a reason why this game was memorable, and it's cause it's neck in neck. Wong hits an absolute heater to Hugo's forehand, catching him sleeping again because he's in position trying to block it back. backhand. Hugo responds with another down the line shot like he almost hit the line. Catches Wong jumping for joy to the wrong side of the table too. Both players are adapting to the guessing game that's developed. Both players are slow under reactions because of the nerves. Both players are still sending their shots and refusing to back down. There's spaghetti everywhere.
My heart's a season, my lungs a wheezing.
This is absolutely wild. Wong goes into 9-9 with the serve, and Hugo is caught off guard by the fast, probably slightly underspin serve, and Wong gets to match point. It's never a good look to lose a point in a tense situation on service, and Wong still has another serve to go. Wong serves, wide corner. Hugo taps it over, but Wong's premeditated on that backhand for too long. He reacts a touch late to the short ball, and honestly looks like he committed beforehand to playing the backhand. To his credit, if he got this, he would have won, because Hugo again was guessing wrong. But that brings the game to 10-10. Deuce. First serve, Hugo sets up for the backhand, but is far back enough to cover the tight forehand, nets him the opportunity to catch Wong running in the wrong direction, sets him up for match point. And now the pressure's on Wong to hang on for life. Side under, push, but Wong's push is with a big stretch, floats towards Hugo's forehand. Hugo busts out the Hugo special, the sliding backhand on the forehand corner, which we haven't seen in a hot sec. And we've talked about this before. Given the ball position and the angle of the body, he's only got one lane of attack, and Wong's there to press the ball back onto the table. But the Hugo special isn't done yet, because part of the special is the recovery, and he's able to reach with both hands to keep the ball in play. However, it's a weaker shot, and Wong hits a strong forehand through it. Hugo's backed up from the table, giving him more time to respond. Wong in complete control, looking poised, balanced, powerful, looks like he has Hugo on the ropes. But Hugo's got one last secret technique, a wildly strong backhand counter loop from downtown. Gets one backhand, shifts to the forehand, gets a solid hit. Wong's closer to the table and regains initiative, forcing Hugo to hit another swaying maestro. Has to shoot again for slightly behind a hit before hitting another giant backhand. None of these are stable shots. How the heck is he still in the rally? This whole time, Hugo's been slowly moving Wong back towards the center of the table, and Wong, sensing the rotation, plays a shot towards the center as well. But he looks like he hits it at an uncomfortable height and finally shows a crack in his balance. His instinct is that Hugo's going to continue rotating him right, and he jumps to cover it. But the name of this whole game has been misdirection, and Hugo Calderano, on his first chance to play a solid forehand, hits it down the line. It's not the strongest shot in the world, but it's just enough of a mix-up to punish Wong's overcommitment to his backhand side. Hits it off the edge with his paddle over the table, and if your jaw didn't drop, it better now, because Hugo Calderano takes a stunning match point against one of China's finest in a crazy tight game after a 3-game straight comeback. Now, if there was one thing I wish I could have changed about this tournament, it would have been that this semifinals match was the finals match. It was way tighter, way more interesting, and way more exciting. And since this video is already long and I'm coming out with it late, I'm only going to talk a little bit about this last match. Sorry if you were expecting more. I got you next time. The finals. Hugo Calderano versus Lin Shidong, the latest and the greatest in China, also representing Wong Hao's coaching run back after semifinals against Hugo. Righty versus righty, the wide backhand lane is open once more. Game 1 brought us some feeling out of the spin and placement, some settling down maybe, and this piece of insightful commentary.
Forget Calderano, he'll probably make a really great house husband someday. He really loves to clean the table.
Yeah, what is up with that? The touch from both players looked a bit off. Lin pulls ahead and wins 11-6. Game 2, Lin starts showing some cracks. First point, the touch is off on a receive. And even on a fast serve, he gets boxed into the defensive and loses the point. But he's a tough nut to crack and adapts with better defense, a tighter backhand, and a great catch. Hugo dials in some of his classic flat forehands, wake it down to lines, and what I can only describe as the backhand equivalent of the Chinese forehand loop through underspin. Lin's weak on the short forehand push. Hugo punishes, takes his first game. The third game is tight. Lin punishes Hugo's floaty pushes and plays some nice backhands off the back edge. But his forehand push is still a liability and leaves him out of position. And he's still struggling to block straight shots to the forehand. The 1 point he gets isn't necessarily lucky, but considering how it was his serve, you'd want him to look like he has more initiative here instead of playing so reactively. Then he misses a block here and is starting to look bad. Sure, the game is still tight, but whether this was something he was specifically trying to scout for, or he's genuinely getting caught by surprise, the body language isn't great. Another down the line miss from far table, followed by a miss on a block, and you might as well say, GG's, shake my hand, because Lin looks rattled. Am I gonna say that Lin looked like he was in peak form here? No. But there's also just aspects of Hugo's play that's making Lin look lost. If you want to be the best in the world, it's sometimes not so much about how good your A game is, but how consistent your B or even C games are. And this match definitely looked like Lin let the mental mental slip because the next 2 games, well, let's just say it didn't look pretty. Hugo's play gets more calculated, more vicious, and more stable, while Lin goes from having a few uncharacteristic misses to looking down and out. The last game, Hugo's backhand is relentless and he jumps out to a 5-1 lead. Lin plays a bit more anticipatory D on the backhand and stops some of the bleeding, but Hugo adds a bit more lift to his forehands and starts getting them back on the table. Starts working the backhand angles now that he's got Lin worried about the straights to their forehand, and he adds just enough attack to Lin's weaker forehand again to get him worried, load the mental stack, and Lin actually just falls apart. This match, Lin Shidong got absolutely cooked. No salt, no pepper by the red-hot Hugo Calderano. Hugo's got 5 match points to work with, and how does he start? Fast serve into the backhand, signaling his intention to rally. It's a great angle, especially because Lin cheated up a bit to cover the short forehand, and the ball comes back high. We've seen this movie over and over, but we get to see it one last glorious time in IMAX. The strong, flat, whipping backhand through the ball, beautifully placed in the back corner. Lin's got no space to block because he's still too far forward, but even if he did, Hugo was already poised to deliver a crushing forehand. Ball goes off the net, off the table, and Hugo Calderano takes an insane win in one of the biggest, most stacked tournaments of our era, beating not 1, not 2, but 3 of the top 10 players in the world, clutching up against China's finest, proving that he doesn't just hang with the best, he's got what it takes to bring them down.
And there it is, the champion of 2025, Hugo Calderano. What a performance from him in the...
Hey, thanks for watching to the end of this video. I really appreciate you guys hanging with me and, sticking with the slow upload schedule. That's just how things are going to be, because that's just how I am. This video was really long, though, so I'm going to try to stick to some shorter videos in the future, if you don't mind. Just a reminder that I do have a Ko-Fi if you want a tip for the videos or, like, support or whatever. If you appreciate this sort of content in the table tennis space, absolutely no pressure, because I'm not guaranteeing more content here. But yeah, highly recommend you taking a trip to Japan. Go somewhere that's not Tokyo, Kyoto, or Osaka, or if you go to those places, go to some of the lesser visited neighborhoods, like Shimokitazawa in Tokyo, or like, somewhere north in Kyoto. There's a lot of nice places that are not touristed, because people only go to, the big places. Just a tip there. Drink some good coffee like a Glitch in Tokyo, Karasu in Kyoto, Bastet in northern Kyoto, Nonstop in Kanazawa. Hit up your local anime. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. See you next video.